I think I actually cover this in my next video. Now, here's the thing. You still can't tell if it's too loud or too quiet. So what I always do, turn my speakers down to halfway. Half volume. Here's a good rule of thumb. If you can hear what these people are saying when they're talking, not when they're yelling or screaming, when they're forward into the M-player by hitting up, and then listen during a normal conversation. When people are just talking to each other and not yelling. There you go. If you can hear what they say, make out their words at half volume, then play it again at full volume and find a very loud part in the movie and see if it distorts your speakers.
Morning, sweetheart.
Okay, that was loud, but it didn't distort the speakers. So we know that we are not too loud, that it's going to fuck our speakers up, and we're not too quiet to where we can't hear it without turning it way up. So we know we're just about right. If we were not just about right, before the vol norm, you would put volume equals and then plus or minus a number. For example, if you wanted to turn the volume up, like a lot of times with DVDs, I have to put volume equals 8 for most DVDs. I have had a couple DVDs that after a vol norm, it was actually way too fucking loud. So I actually had to put volume equals -4 and then comma vol norm equals 1. Remember, volume needs to come before vol norm. So you test it out after applying vol norm, test it out. You decide if it needs to be louder or quieter, and then apply volume equals the volume level, comma, vol norm equals 1, and then test it out again. So always remember that. All right. Now that you know how to do the audio and video filters, and this one didn't need to be amplified, so we can just leave the audio filter as vol norm equals 1. Now that you know how to do the video and audio filters, we can start transcoding. There is one more thing that I do want to say about the audio filters, though. If you are transcoding a video that into a different format, now I'm not going to show you how to transcode in an MPEG format, the old school DVD format. I'm not going to show you how to do that. But this applies if you're doing that. Also for the certain other formats, you have to have a sample rate of 48,000 kilohertz for the audio sample in order for certain codecs to even load. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. There is a minimum sample rate for each codec. I believe the MP3 and the AAC codecs minimum sample rate is 22,100. No, it's 20,050. That's its minimal sample rate before it'll load the. If it doesn't meet that codec, it won't even load the goddamn codec. It'll fail. And if you're using AVID Mux trying to use those two codecs and the audio channel doesn't have that sample rate, it'll crash. For MPEG 2 audio, which is old school DVD MPEG file audios, the minimum sample rate is 48,000 kilohertz. Anyway, if you have to resample it in your audio filter chain, add a comma to separate your filters if there's not already one. Put resample equals and then the number. For AAC, it has to be at least 20,050, which is 20050. But I typically, if I resample at all, I typically leave it at 44,100. The only times I've ever had to resample for AAC and MP3 is for like videos I sent to myself, sent to my email from my cell phone. They use like 8-bit PCM at like an ungodly low sample rate. And if you want to transcode the video to store it on your computer in a format that can be played on any computer, because as many of you know, with cell phones know, most video format for cell phones is proprietary. So if you can figure out how to play it on a computer, you're probably goddamn lucky, because most people can't play a cell phone video on a computer. You usually have to transcode it first. So when you transcode it, if you get something with audio codecs crashing, you know that you've got to resample the audio because it's very, very low. You got to resample it up. And if you're using MP3 or AAC audio, you need to resample it back up to 20,050, which is 20050. Anyway, we don't need to in this case. And in any case of any DVD, it's already been resampled to 48,000 because it's MPEG format. It has to be. Or if it's AAC or AC3 format, I think it's at least 44,100. But it's I think it's always 48,000 no matter what if it's coming from a DVD. Okay, so this video is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was. Alright, now you know your video filters and audio filter shit. Those are your most commonly needed options. There are specialty options that I'm not discussing because they're specialty. I could give a fuck less. Alright, now go back and erase the word mPlayer and replace it with mEncoder. And then hit N to go back to the end of your line. Now you hit you got mEncoder, the path to the VOB, -VF for the video filter chain, -AF for the audio filter chain, if either of them were even necessary. I forgot to put the D size at the end of this. D size filter. Alright. And then now, after your audio filter chain, hit space. Now you need to start the audio and video codecs and their options. Now, your audio codec, we're going to go over the XVID first. XVID/DivX, whatever you want to call it. We're going to go over that really quickly. For XVID, you have to use MP3. I don't know why, but for some reason, if you use an XVID codec with an AAC audio codec, it won't play on a lot of players. I don't know why. I don't care either. If you use XVID, you got to use MP3. And a lot of DVD players won't play it either. DVD players that can play DivX. All right, so now you got -OAC, which is Output Audio Codec. So you got your -OAC flag, space, what was it? MP3 lame. I've not used this in a long time. So, all right, space. So Output Audio Codec, MP3 lame, and then dash. What is it? Lame, LAME, ops, OPTS for lame options, and then space. I think it's just BR. BR equals 128. So bitrate equals 128. If BR doesn't work, then you got to actually spell out the whole word bitrate equals 128. All right, now put a space. Now that's for our audio codec and our audio codecs options. Now our audio filter, our audio filter is completely different. Has nothing to do with codecs. It's pre-processing before it even gets to the audio codec, which is the same thing as video filters are pre-processing techniques before it even gets to the video codec. Think of it as a way to clean up the video and audio and perfect it before you encode it. Think of it that way. But they're independent of each other. Audio codecs and audio filters are independent of each other, just like video codecs and video filters. Alright, so we got output audio codec, MP3 lame, -lame ops, BR equals 128. Remember, if that doesn't work, change it to bitrate equals 128. Alright, space, -output video codec, OVC. So you got -OVC for output video codec, space, I believe it was just XVID, and then space, -XVID ops, OPTS for XVID options, and then space, and then you're going to put all of your video codec options. Now, it's been a long time since I've used. Actually, I wrote transcoding scripts to do all this shit for me. I can pretty much drag and drop it, so it's been a long time since I've done anything. Typed out any codec options. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I was wrong. Okay, for lame ops, go back to lame ops, and where it says BR equals 128, right before that put CBR, colon. Now, codec options are separated by colons and not commas. Don't get that confused. Remember, video filter and audio filters are separated by commas, and each